We will be joined by two lawyers on the program. One of them is in our Abuja studio, Mr. Pelumi Olajengbesi. Will be talking to us. He does not believe that INEC has the powers to do what they did in terms of declaring the election inconclusive. Thank you so much, Mr. Olajengbesi, for coming on the program tonight. What is your argument, and on what basis and what sections of the law are you standing right tonight?
Yeah, thank you very much. Currently, as we can see in Osun State, INEC, as a major organization of government, is facing a major integrity test. If you look at the position of the Constitution in section 179 sub 2 A and B, the Constitution has actually settled the procedure and all the necessary ingredients to be put in place in considering how the person to emerge in an election whenever you are having a governorship election or a presidential election. And so it is settled. And looking at all the requirements in the Constitution, the requirement is met by the candidate of PDP, and I believe that the candidate should be declared as the governor elected in Osun State, as the governor elected in Osun State. But what INEC has done is just to satisfy, I believe, some particular interest within the system, and which is very, very dangerous for our democracy. I must quickly say also, I listened to the INEC man and some other arguments in the past, making claims that in the Electoral Act and, of course, the INEC guideline, there is no law in Nigeria that is superior to the Constitution of the land. And if there is any law that is inconsistent with the position of the Constitution, that law is to the extent of that inconsistency null and void. If you look at the matter of Nafiu against Kano State, the Supreme Court has actually settled it that in any matter where the Constitution has expressly declared a particular position, that position must not be obstructed by any other law again.
Pelumi Olajengbesi in the Abuja studio, and we have Mr. Liberos Oshoma, a Lagos lawyer, also join us in our Lagos studio. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on the program. Mr. Olajengbesi had said, look, the guideline of INEC is not superior to the Constitution of the Federation. The power to declare an election inconclusive, all of us know that it resides in the guidelines of INEC. But also, there is a Constitution of the Federal Republic that has empowered INEC to act and to frame its guidelines. But in this instance, do you think INEC erred in declaring that election inconclusive?
Not at all. You know, when because of the lack of trust in our public institutions, when matters like this broke, majority of the first reactions you hear are sentimental and not legal. And so you hear discordant tunes. But fortunately for us, it's elementary law that the Constitution is the ground norm. But the Supreme Court, in interpreting this same scenario, if you remember the James Farley case and INEC, the Supreme Court, all the courts, from the Court of First Instance up to the Supreme Court, did say that in resolving the issues of inconclusive election and the powers of INEC to declare elections inconclusive, that you do not read the Constitution in isolation. You must read it in tandem with the Electoral Act and the INEC guideline. Since these INEC guidelines are not formulated in abeyance, they are formulated by virtue of the powers donated to INEC by Section 153 of the same Electoral Act. You know, so when sometimes I have listened to my colleagues, you know, argue back and forth on this. The question is this act inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution? The answer is no. And so also, this is not the first time INEC is declaring election inconclusive in circumstances like this. You remember the Anambra scenario, even though Willie Obiano was leading his first election, because of the Ndemili North and South crisis, INEC declared that election inconclusive. That it was so bad that even Nigerians labeled INEC conclusive National Electoral Commission. In, what do you call it, in Kogi, it was the same thing. And the argument of Chief Wole Olanipekun then was that the same argument we have today was that the provisions of the Constitution has been complied with. and talking about the required spread. And so to that extent, and the winner had emerged, and all the provisions had been complied with. And so to that extent, INEC ought to have declared a winner. And the Supreme Court said no, that there is a guideline. And so in a situation where you have the number of elections that have been cancelled, and the number of those elections, it's more than the number of the margin between the first runner-up and the leader of that outcome. That's what the INEC did.
There is an argument, though, Mr. Oshoma, that look, when you cancel a vote, that vote is not valid. That's
the Oshomole's argument, Oshomola and Osumbo. What happened? There's need for us to distinguish between those two cases. What happened in Oshomola and Osumbo was the fact that cancelled votes were added to the vote of Osumbo. And the court said no, that once votes are cancelled, you can no longer breathe life into them to now add them into, the votes of a candidate and then you begin to count. And so what the court did was those votes that were cancelled, the court simply subtracted them and then now gave Oshomole victory once those votes were deducted. But in this case, like in James Faleke's case, elections in James Faleke's case were not concluded in 2 local governments. And so INEC, as a result of ballot box snatching and irregularities, and INEC said, well, the number of registered voters in those areas is more than the margin between the first runner-up and the leader in that election. And so we cannot, in all honesty, say, look, election has been concluded. And then the parties went to court. And the court made a pronouncement on that. I recommend that to my colleagues. The James Faleke and INEC matter. Okay. It's on all fours in this matter.
Let's allow Mr. Lagengbesi. You've heard the argument of your learned friend here who has said, look, that argument is not valid. You have any more to say on that, Mr. Lagengbesi?
That I sympathize right now with INEC, particularly the staffs of INEC, because evidently I know for sure that the staffs of INEC are very sure that what they are doing, they are trending on the wrong line. But they have to do that, to satisfy certain purposes. And I want to quickly say that my learned friend over there, who just said that the act of INEC is not inconsistent with the Constitution, that's wrong. If you look at the position of the Constitution, when you talk about the election of the president and, of course, the election of governor, the position and the procedure has been settled by the Constitution. And you see, the INEC, the electoral guidelines, and of course the guidelines that can be put in place by INEC, can only function in instances whereby there's vacuum. Can only function in instances where issues concerning the Constitution or concerning the procedure is not resolved by the Constitution. Like I said earlier, in the matter of Nafiu against Kano State, the Supreme Court itself said clearly that in any matter where the Constitution has actually expressly resolved that no any other law or any other thing should be imputed to disregard it. So I want to believe clearly that the decision of INEC in Osun State is very, very wrong. And I'm very, very sure that no court in our land will take that.
Do you think that the PDP will have a good day in court to sustain this before Thursday? Do you think they can get an injunction to stop the Thursday rerun?
Yeah, I slightly think so, but you should also understand that issue pertaining to election is still generous, it's special. There's a particular court that has been put in place to take care of election matters. So I wouldn't know, because it's for the court to decide. Now that the election is not yet concluded as according to INEC, it might be very dangerous or slim for PDP to approach any court to get an injunction. But if PDP is approaching court through probably an originating summon to request that the court should interpret that particular action as in line with the Constitution, of course, in relation with the Electoral Act, it's a dicey thing. I cannot speak for the court, but I want you to...
Mr.
Sure. The question a lot of my colleagues are missing is the Constitution did not make provisions for where there is a margin. And what the provision had been settled by the Supreme Court. And what the court says, the law is what the court says it is. All of these that we are arguing today had been argued before the Supreme Court in James Faleke and INEC. Yeah. And INEC had ruled, taking into cognizance the provisions of the Supreme Court, the provisions of the Electoral Act, and the INEC guideline. Right. And INEC has said, you read the three of them together in these instances, and you cannot declare a winner, and the election had not been conclusive. And that was why what happened in Kogi happened. Okay. And that's why James Faleke could not reap the benefit of those elections. And so let's forget nephew and all of that, and resort to the recent decision of the Supreme Court in the matter.
We need to go now. It's very interesting. One perspective that we cannot explore today is the meeting between Saraki and Omishore. We get that probably tomorrow. Thank you so much, Mr. Liberos Oshomo. Always a pleasure having you. Mr. Kwelumi Olajengbesi, thank you for your time on the program today. That's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimbale. Bye-bye.